Hey guys, so today's video we're going to talk about how you can become a pilot. I'm going to simplify this as best I can, keep it as quick and efficient as I can, and I'm going to break it down in 3 categories for you guys. Okay, so number 1 is the requirements, number 2 is going to be how long, and number 3 is going to be how much it's going to cost. So I'll break it down in 3 different sections. If you want to skip to any one of these sections, feel free to. With that being said, let's get started. Okay, so first off, let's talk about the requirements needed in order to become a pilot. So in order to become a pilot and receive compensation, you're going to need 3 main licenses or certificates. It's going to be your private, your instrument, and your commercial certificates. Now, if you want to just become a recreational pilot, you're not looking to do this as a job, all you're going to need is get your private pilot's license, the very first one, which is going to be the least time consuming and the least costly. So I'll talk about how much and how long and how much it costs later in this video, but basically you're going to need to get this. You're going to need at least be 17 years of age to hold this certificate, and then you're going to need 40 hours of actual flight time. I'm not going to talk about every requirement in there. That's up to you to do research on, but that's what the basics of what you need. Next up, after you get your private pilot's license, which allows you to fly in visual flight rules, VFR, meaning you can see outside the cockpit, you're going to go get your instrument license, which allows you to not see outside the cockpit. So you can fly solely off the instruments. You're going to need around 150 hours. Okay, so you already have 50 from your private. You're going to build 100 more hours around that number to get this with other requirements. You're going to take your test. You're going to knock it out of the park. Now you are IFR certified. So you got your first 2 certificates. Next up, you're going to do your commercial certificate. So your commercial certificate is going to require 250 total hours. You're going to take the test around that marker, usually around 255 or 260. Once you knock that out, you can now get paid to fly. Like, great, so what do I need to become an airline pilot? Can I go apply for the airlines? Nope, that's the cool part. But just because you're a commercial pilot now does not mean, or you're commercial rated, does not mean you're a commercial pilot. You need your ATP, which is an airline transport pilot. You need at least 1,500 hours, as well as a lot of other requirements in which you would have to do the research yourself. I'm not going to break that down. But just know, if you get your first 3 licenses, you do have your commercial certificate, you can get paid to work for other companies or other things on the field. You could be a CFI, flight instructor. You could do what I do. I do contract work, Part 91. I make good money. You do not need to build a certain amount of time as long as you have that certificate and the company does not require it. Okay, so you just do your research, make sure a company that you're flying for doesn't require, a certain amount of hours or a certain age limit. You're good to go. Okay, you're like, what do I need, as well as my pilot's license? So you're going to need a medical certificate. Now this is a physical examination, so basically like a physical, you would get a sports physical in high school or college. Same thing. So certified FAA doctor, not just any doctor. Don't go to somebody just randomly and say, hey, can you give me a pilot's medical? Your instructor will tell you who you can go to. So whoever your flight instructor is, ask them which doctor I need. They're going to tell you, and you're going to go to this doctor. He's going to give you a he's going to give you a medical examination to become a pilot. Can you fail these? Yes, absolutely. And you cannot get any one of these certificates without passing this medical. Okay, I can list them on the screen and what some of the requirements. There's gonna be a lot of requirements that you have to fill out, or a lot of like a large form that you're gonna fill out, just a lot of different things. Have you been nauseous before? Have you passed out? A lot of different things. Have you gotten a felony? And they're going to deem whether or not you are safe to fly an aircraft. I'm not going to really get much else other than you need 20/20 corrective vision for your first and second class medical, and that means you need glasses or contacts. You're fine. Know a lot of people with glasses or contacts. Most pilots do have that. So 20/20 corrective vision to fly, and if you're colorblind, you cannot fly during the night. But good news is you have to pass their color vision test. I do know a pilot that is colorblind with 2 colors, and he's still able to fly at night. Okay, so you need to mostly be able to see red and green. That's going to be their primary color vision test, but along with some other things. So there are a lot of requirements for the medical, but you pass the medical and all these, you pass all your flight tests, you're good to go. Okay, next up, you're like, how to become one? Where do I need to go to become a pilot? So there are 2 main parts, and are 2 main places to do this. You can go to a local flight school, which are going to be on but it could be on an uncontrolled airport or a controlled field. Okay, it could be anywhere in the country. That's what I meant to say, is it could be a small airport, a big airport. These flight schools are basically going to be on these fields, somewhere that gets a little bit of traffic, a good amount of volume that they can make money to train students. Okay, you can look around local flight schools. You can Google it, Google Maps, and see if there's one near you. Next option is going to college. You can actually go to college and get a degree as well as your flight certificates. Example is Auburn. Auburn has an excellent flight program here in Alabama. So Auburn College, excellent college overall. So you get a degree as well as a flight certificate. You're like, do I need a degree to fly in general? Nope, you don't. That's the cool thing about it. So I did a flight school. I went to a local Birmingham Flight Center, which is out of Birmingham International Airport. Can be a busier airport. That's where I learned how to train, or that's where they trained me how to fly. And as well as you could do it in a small uncontrolled field in Auburn. So it depends on you. You do not need a degree. Most airlines prefer a degree if you want to be a commercial pilot and fly for the airlines. But not all, I don't think any of them technically require it. I know American doesn't even prefer one. Some of the others prefer one, but I know a pilot who works for Delta, he does not have a college degree. So that's going to be completely up to you whether you want to get that degree or not, just as a backup plan or just for, looks on your resume. I dropped out of college, did not finish. I still make over 6 figures a year doing what I do, flying airplanes. Okay, so next up, let's talk about how long this is going to take. This is a very broad question, so I'm going to do the best I can on this. The best way I can describe this is depending on you, your time, and money, okay? So how much can you fly this week? How much is it going to cost you? Can you afford it? All right. So I'll talk about how expensive each license is going to be in the next category. So the best way I can do this is categorize this. But how long is it going to take you? Depending on you. So if you're going to a college, it's going to probably take you around 3 to 4 years because you're working on a degree and you're going through their program. Now, you can ask at a lot of colleges, they have accelerated flight programs, which will help you get through it even quicker. You could actually knock it out within a year and a half. Depends on the program, depends on what they're offering. They have accelerated ATP schools as well to help you become a pilot for the airlines right away. It just depends on the school. You would have to ask them. Now, I went to a local flight school, as I mentioned. It took me 3.5 years to get all 3 of my licenses. It took me 3.5 months to get my private pilot's license. So if you want to become a recreational pilot, that's usually pretty standard. It'll take you around 3 months. Instrument took me an extra 1.5 years, and then as well as my commercial took me an extra 1.5 years. Now, if I had the time and money, because I had to work around my job, it was a little expensive to do. It took me 3.5 years. If I had the time and money, I could have probably done it in a year, because a lot of programs or flight schools will offer a Part 141 fast track. So you can look up what that is. So 141 fast track is basically, like I said, in college, it's a fast program for you to spend a little more money. You are hitting it hard. I mean, 4 or 5 days a week. I can't remember what the requirements are. I think it's maybe at least 5 days a week. I don't remember, but you are knocking it out. Okay. I know a buddy who actually knocked all of it out in a year. He was a Hollywood actor, wanted to become a pilot. He actually started flying with us and what we do. He knocked all 3 of his licenses out within 1 year and started flying with us and receiving pay. And now he's actually flying for the airlines. He's flying for Spirit Airlines. I don't know why he did that. Shout out to Spirit, but hopefully he'll go to somewhere better. I'm so sorry. Any pilot watching this that works for Spirit. But hopefully he'll go somewhere better down the road. So it depends on you and your time and money. That's the best way I can describe it. And, if you're going to a flight school or college, ask to see if they have a fast track program to help you get through it faster and how much it'll cost. Okay, the last portion we're going to talk about is how much it's going to cost you. Generally speaking, the average across the nation is going to be around $90,000 to get all 3 of your licenses. Your first license is going to cost about $9,000 to $10,000, your private license, okay? So you can do that in about 3.5 months, $9,000 to $10,000, and then your next 2, $35,000, depending on some other factors, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So if you're like, hey, dude, that's a lot of money, I don't know if I want to do that. College is freaking expensive, y'all. Just saying, just for any degree, especially if you're going for like a medical degree or whatever, $90,000, if that's what you end up getting to, is not that bad, especially if you space it out over a lot of time and if you make a lot of money. I've done a video recently on how much pilots make. You can actually check that out, and pilots can make a lot of money. You will be paying that off pretty quickly. So it's well worth the investment. It's not that expensive. It cost me about $65,000 to do it over 3.5 years. That's not that bad when you really think of it. I flew, though, a tiny little Cessna 152. I felt like I was going backwards half the time. The rate of that thing was cheap. I can't even remember. I think it was like I want to say like $90 per hour to operate, and that's not that expensive at all. But this depends. Like I said, it's $90,000 is the average I can give you based on research, but this is going to depend on what state you're flying out of. Is it more expensive to live there? Is the fuel cost expensive on the field? The hourly rate of the plane you're going to fly is going to vary depending on the fuel costs on the field. You know, fuel prices are really high right now in aviation, so it's going to be more expensive. Also, lastly, the type plane you're flying. I flew a 152, but if you're doing all your training out of 182 or 172, it's going to be a little more expensive. That extra $20, $30 an hour to operate, that adds up over time. That's where aviation can really get expensive. So depends on where you're flying out of. If you're going to college and doing it out of a flight program in a college, you're probably paying a set amount anyways to go to college. So that's going to probably cost you more. So it just depends on different things. I do recommend you do research or ask the flight school or the college, the flight program. Ask them how much it's going to cost you. They will sit down and talk to you and give you a list, okay? And if you're like, well, you know, where do I go from here? How do I even ask them? You could call a local flight school and ask them, hey, I want to become a pilot. I want to do a discovery flight, and you know, see if I enjoy it or not. They're going to take you up in a plane one-on-one and see, you know, with an instructor, and see if you like flying in the first place. If you do, they're going to tell you what you need, the requirements, everything I mentioned in this video, how long it's going to take you, how much it's going to cost you, yada yada. Now, last thing I will say is, so it cost me about $65,000 over 3.5 years. My buddy who did it in a year, cost him about $100,000. Knocked it out in a year though. Like I said, he saved a lot of money. He was a Hollywood actor, so he was able to do it really quickly and efficiently. So that is it, guys. If y'all have any questions or any other questions, comment down below. I hope I covered most of it. It's a broad question, you know, and could spend hours on this video. So that's it, guys. Hope you like this video. If you have any questions, make sure you comment below. If you do like this video, please smash thumbs up. See you guys in the next one.